Hello, this is Gen83. This is round 1 of season 20 of AOR, and we're here in F2 once again, and we're in Australia, and it's a little bit of a worse grid, I think, than F2 was last season, if you watched that on my channel. But we're here on this season now, and hopefully I'll be right up there at the front of the field. We've got, I think, 15 drivers for this first round, and there'll be a few more in the later rounds, I'm sure. But we're in the Alfa Romeo this season with my teammate Riley once again, who will be joining me in the Alfa Romeo team, and straight into qualifying for Australia. It's a track that I'd go pretty well in the past. I've had 3 second places here before, never actually won, but hopefully we can do something about that today. I felt pretty good on pace. My PB was, I did a 19.4 in an online session, which was absolutely ridiculous, but my actual PB, which I did consistently, was a 19.9, so I was hoping to get into 19s if I could, but onto this first lap you can see pretty cautious, just trying not to invalidate and get a good banker on the board. I actually noticed now I didn't actually use max fuel for some reason. I just stuck it in rich because I didn't notice, so yeah, that really cost quite a bit of time throughout the lap, and coming around a few corners, not as much track use as possible there, but onto the start finish straight, opening DRS, and it looks like a pretty okay banker lap. It's going to be a high 20, which is pretty poor actually. It's 20.8, which is currently fastest, but very few laps have actually been set so far. But yeah, into later in the session, my second lap, and you can see using max fuel this time, and I've already gained 10th into turn 3, but a little bit wide there. That's going to cost a bit of time compared to my first, and yeah, you can see I'm down to 3rd at the minute, which actually is pretty good considering I did 20.8, which is pretty awful. But yeah, through the high speed chicane now, not as much curb usage as possible, but keeping it nice and clean, and we're half a second up on that 20.8, so it should be a very good lap if we can nail the ending to it. But braking slightly early into this corner, not as much speed taken as possible there. You can see nowhere near the exit curb really, and through this corner, nice and high speed through there, 6th gear, and braking down to 2nd for the second last corner. Riley goes fastest with 20.4, so it looks like we're going to be able to beat that though if I can get a good final corner in. And yes, we do, opening up DRS once again, down to 5th as it stands, but coming up to the line, and we're going to cut the beam, and it's a 20.2, which is okay. I can definitely go for it now. The last lap, I'll be pretty happy with that. And this is my last lap in qualifying, my best lap as well, braking just after 100 meter board for the first corner, 5th gear. Not as loads of speed taken through there, pretty cautious on the entry, but yeah, we're a 10th and a half down, but I know there's plenty of time to find, especially at turn 3 you saw on a previous lap. We're down to 2nd as it stands. I think Enric did a 20.1 or 20 point, low 20.2 actually, so yeah, as long as I improve, it could be pole position, although plenty of people will be improving at the same time. But down in the end of the first sector, we're pretty much level, 1000th level actually, with my previous lap, and yeah, down through this next section. Sector 2 is pretty much just 2 corners, but we've got the first one done quite well there, and now down towards the next one, braking just at the gap in the wall, and 3rd gear, not over the curve as much as you could be, but getting a pretty good exit there, down this short straight, down to chicane, and we're still pretty much level with my previous time, but through the chicane I can really go for it now, and I was not that aggressive on my previous lap, but braking down to 7th gear, all over those curbs on entry, and through the second part, flat out completely. We've gained a 10th and a half now, and you can see it was a 20.248 for Enric, so if I improve at all, it's probably going to beat him. And you can see we're 3/10 up now almost through this section of the track. And through the third last corner, not as much speed as last time, taking through there, a little bit wider on exit. And through the final corner, 2nd gear, try not to mess up this traction zone, as the lap has been pretty good, and it could be a 19, although the exit out of the final corner has not been too good. It's pretty cautious on the traction there, but we're going to improve it all, and it should be pole position. Yes, it is, a 20.123, and straight away inviting my teammate Riley back because he disconnected because I'm such a nice teammate. But yeah, that was actually good enough for pole position, which I was a little bit surprised about because there was definitely more time to find. You saw I was a 10th down after turn 1, but either way, yeah, on pole by just over a 10th of a second from Enric, and then Tom in 3rd. My teammate Riley is 5th, but Daigoro, who I knew is very quick, he said that he was on for a 19.6, but got blocked on his lap. So yeah, very close stuff, and you can see the whole grid separated by just over a second and a half. So pretty close stuff. It's cloudy at the race start, but yeah, luckily no rain on the horizon, so I'm pretty appalling in those conditions. But yeah, onto the grid. It's going to be super softs onto the hard tyres, and here we are, 5 red lights for the Australian Grand Prix, round 1 of the season from pole position. And it's quite a long hold, but we are away eventually. Extremely long hold, but we've got a pretty good start. Enric didn't get a good start at all. He's already dropped behind Tom and Daigoro. And now down towards turn 1. That's going to leave you pretty unchallenged and break in nice and early. Try and keep it slowed down. And yes, into turn 1 first. And that should be that for this first lap, really. You can see Daigoro up into 2nd straight away from 4th on the grid. And he's going to be the one to watch, really, because he said that he could go a lot faster in qualifying. I'm sure a lot of drivers felt that. But I know that he is definitely one to keep an eye on for the rest of this race. But through the first sector, pretty much no challenge from behind, luckily. And hopefully I can just pull away from first. But that was not what happened. As you see, by the end of lap 2, Daigoro was able to stick to me like glue. And yeah, we got a bit of a gap to Tom in 3rd. And then Extra Fearless, who's come up, I think, a few positions from his good spot into 4th. But yeah, I'm not pulling away as much as I'd like to, and Daigoro is definitely going to have a chance now. DRS is enabled down towards turn 3, but it's a very hard track to overtake at. So as long as I keep making no mistakes, it should be okay to stay ahead of him. But through this first sector, nothing doing for Daigoro, and then one lap later, lap 4, and not a great run through there, run a little bit wide. Lucky to not get a warning for that, actually. And Daigoro is going to have a very good exit here, down towards turn 3. Is he close enough for a move? I'm going to go a little bit defensive, but he's not going to have the chance really. Just go to the outside, actually, but a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. And through this next corner, it's going to be side-by-side with the Ferrari driver, and running outside, holding the high-speed advantage. And there we go, keeping first place for now. And you can see by lap 7, no more challenges came really, but you can see Tom has actually kept up with us very well as well. So it's a bit of a three-way fight for the race lead, but I'm going to peel into the pits this lap because the strategy was quite interesting. It was soft medium is definitely possible, but the medium tyres start to wear off, and so do the softs actually by the end of the stint. So you're better off doing soft hard, I think. So I'm going to pit on lap 7. You can see the tyres weren't badly worn, but I just thought I'd rather not get undercut because obviously they could have pit that lap if I didn't. So yeah, I was happily going to give up track position for the undercut really, and hopefully stay ahead of them. But the problem is now either of them could easily go onto mediums and have a big advantage for the second half of the race. But coming out of the pits, we're going to be in 9th place, as all the soft drivers have gone 1 lap longer. So yeah, I've got to try and get through the traffic as soon as possible. I've got a little bit of clear air up to Falcao in 8th, but yeah, got to really push on this lap and not get overcut at all, or hopefully not get held up in traffic. And Teak Quickshare peels into the pits, who is Daigoro's teammate, so he could have done him a favour if he stayed out a few more laps, but obviously focusing on himself, which is probably fair enough. But Falcao is just ahead of me. He's unfortunately got DRS because yeah, he was behind Teak over the activation, the detection point. Luckily, I have undercut Tom by an absolute mile. He's about 3 or 4 seconds back, so yeah, straight away that one's been sorted out. But Daigoro actually went on another lap, so now I've got to focus on Falcao. He's holding him up a little bit through turn 3. You can see going pretty slowly, but I've not got a great exit. Obviously, the hards take a bit of time to warm up, but yeah, I should really have cleared him as soon as possible, but still by the end of the lap, I can't get past him, unfortunately, so that's going to be costing me a bit of time. You can see Tom has started to close up a little bit, but Falcao not really getting out of my way. He doesn't have to get out of my way, obviously, he's fighting for position, but into the pits he goes, luckily, and gives me a bit of DRS as well, which is nice. And on to the start of lap 10, Daigoro still hasn't pit. You can see Fusil and Ruben, no, Fusil is in the pits, sorry, and someone else is been lapped. So Ruben and Daigoro are going on 1 lap longer on these soft tyres, and unfortunately, I've picked up a penalty on lap 10, my first penalty, which, yeah, is a bit of a problem because, yeah, I know that it's going to be pretty crucial to not get penalties in this race, but Daigoro coming out the pits there on the mediums, and he's behind me once again, so luckily the overcut hasn't worked, but he is only just behind me. The gap's extended by maybe half a second or so, but yeah, he's only 1.2 back with much fresher tyres now and a softer compound as well, so going to be very interesting to see if I can hold him off. And on to lap 14 into turn 1, going a little bit wide, and Daigoro's got a very good exit here. He's only 3/10 back, and it's going to be closing with his DRS. I've got to use a little bit of overtake to stay ahead of him. But he's not quite close enough. It's turn 3, and I cover off the racing line and brake nice and late, and he has nothing to fight back with. And then onto the middle sector on lap 14, and my hardware decided it was going to have a say in this race. So don't think that your hardware's messing up. It's actually, this is what I saw in the race, and yeah, I had to mute it for some difficult issues. But my TV decided to go completely static, which was really helpful, and almost cost me the lead. I luckily managed to pause it instantly, so my AI car just drove around the track. Otherwise, I was going straight on into the barriers. But I've now got Daigoro all over me into the final sector because of that little mistake from my TV. And now down towards the final chicane. He goes down the inside, a very aggressive move. I'm trying to keep it on the track just about, and got a pretty poor exit there. There's going to be side by side around the final corner. I've still got the high ground at the inside line, but unfortunately, he's a lot closer than he would have been, but he's going to have a chance now towards turn 1. DRS wide open for him. I'm using all of my ERS that I can, but unfortunately, he's got the inside line, braking nice and late, and Daigoro is down the inside and takes the lead of the race, and that's pretty unfortunate. Obviously, nothing I can do because the TV just decided it was going to go static. It's done it quite a few times. It's never happened in the race before, but yeah, it's not a new thing for me. But unfortunately, it's yeah, the first time it's happened in an actual league race. But yeah, it's cost me the position. But luckily, I know that the medium tyres do wear quite a lot more than the hards, so there's still a chance to get back at him. And you can see a few hours later, start lap 18, I was all over his back end still. I just pretty much was staying with him quite comfortably. I know that by lap 25, 26, that the medium tyres are going to be very poor. And if I could just stay with him while his tyres are better, then I should have a chance at the end of the race when his tyres start to wear a lot more. But yeah, I was a little bit annoyed. I was quite glad that I managed to think very quickly and make sure not to like bin it off. But yeah, a little bit annoyed my TV decided to do that. But either way, we're back into the DRS still. And I'm going to listen to Jeff for this part. And unfortunately, yeah, I asked Jeff about the driver in front, and he does not have a penalty at all. And I have one, obviously, and then through the chicane, taking it nice and aggressively. And I've got a second one because, yeah, I'm an absolute fraud. And the one thing that I was really good at last season was not getting penalties and gaining it into the race. But now I have 6 seconds and he has none. So even if I can get past, it's going to be very hard to pull 6 seconds on him. But you see, like 23, by now his tyres are going to be beyond working conditions, really. And down towards turn 3, are we close enough to remove? Not quite. Had to think better at that one. But I was definitely close enough to send it if I was being a bit more aggressive. But I know that he will come into my clutches a lot more easily because, yeah, still 7 laps to go. And he's going to be very struggling now towards the end of the race. And on lap 24, we close enough, lifting off a little bit into turn 1, but getting a pretty clean run through there. And he's got a little bit of oversteer through the mid corner, and now overtake mode, DRS wide open, and Rich mix. So he's going to cover the inside line, going to switch to the outside, and running outside of the Ferrari man, braking nice and late. He's got the inside line. We tried this earlier in the race, the other way around actually, but through turn 4 now, got the inside line, and he's just about having to back out, but we're still side by side. I can't actually see his arrow, but I'm going to leave him space on the inside of turn 5, and just about make the move into the next corner, and we're still side by side, but luckily he backs out of that one and lets me take the position up into the race lead once again. And I've just got to bolt now and hopefully get away as soon as possible because it's going to be so hard to pull this gap. I've got 6 seconds of penalties and he doesn't have any as far as I know, and you can see 1 lap later actually, lap 25, and I've managed to break the DRS window. So that is the first step to actually making this gap, is getting him out the DRS, which is absolutely perfect for me. You can see I don't know what happened to everyone else, but it's 16 seconds back to third now, and starting the last lap it's actually up to 3 seconds. So just on the off chance that he got a penalty, then I've got the gap I need. And starting the final lap of the race, I've got 3 seconds. I feel like I did all I could. Unfortunately, yeah, it wasn't quite enough. He didn't have any penalties, any regular penalties anyway. And through the final corner, I'm going to come across the line first, but unfortunately I did pick up another penalty in the late stage of that race. So I ended up with 9 seconds, and he's going to come across the line and take the victory. So very well done to Daigoro, making the worst strategy work. And unfortunately for me, it was P2 for my 4th second place finish around Australia, which is quite a lot of runners-up places, but never quite got that victory. And this is probably the closest I've ever come around Australia, and I've not got a victory in it at all in AOR since season 13, which I was using all the assists. So yeah, it's been a little bit of time, and unfortunately I thought this was the time, but it was not. But we've got plenty more races. We've got 22 races this season, so yeah, 21 more opportunities to try and take the victory. And you can see he actually had a penalty for speeding into pits, so he had a 5-second penalty. So 1 less penalty for me and I would have won, because I got that 3-second gap by the end. So yeah, very frustrating, as penalties is usually something I'm well on top of, but not on this occasion. I got 9 seconds, so what can I say apart from well done to him, and I've got to do better. Got to get less penalties and hopefully take the victories later in the season. But yeah, there's so many warnings on that result screen. I might make myself feel sick, to be honest. But yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you haven't, like, subscribe if you want to see more. I'll be uploading every race this season of AOR, and hopefully you will be looking forward to them. This has been JY83, and I will see you next time.